Welcome to the Can-Am Roadster Spyder RT Technical Training Series Part 4. Hello, my name is Rich Klein. I'm the coordinator for technical support and technical training for all products in North America, including Spyder Roadster. Also joining in this series webcast today will be Kurt Otteson, who is a Spyder Roadster specialist, and he'll be adding some information for us today. Kurt, you got your notes? Are we ready to go with this training series?
Yes, Rich. I have a few items that we can touch on later in the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. Providing most of the technical content for today's training series is our technical training developer, Patrick Eppolite. Pat, are we ready to get started?
Yes, we are, Rich. We've got a lot of good information to cover today.
Okay, that's great, Patrick. Now, just before we get started with the technical content, let's review the training series to be sure we understand exactly all the different parts to it. Remember, this was a 4-part series, and today we'll be doing electrical number 2. But preceding this, there were 3 other series. Part 1, which was the vehicle overview and PDI. Part 2, which was BUDS operation and basic maintenance of the vehicle. Part 3 was a really good electrical series, and you'll want to watch this one for sure several times. Now remember, all of these parts to the Spyder RT training series are now available on BRPTI. We've removed them from their location in BossWeb, so you'll be able to find them in BRPTI by their appropriate course number, and we'll show you those in a second. Remember, after viewing each of the webcasts, to take the short test on the material presented during the training as your verification for completing the training. Okay, here are those course numbers that you can find in BRPTI, so you can view all of the Spyder training parts to this series at any time, and as many times as you wish. Remember that Part 1 was required for you to receive your initial demo unit. Parts 2 and 3 were required to receive your regular stocking orders, and Part 4 is required to receive continued shipments of all Spyder RT Roadsters. Also, I'd like to review a little bit about dealer certification for the coming year. Right now we're in the qualifying stage of the certification program for paying rewards in 2010-2011. This year, once again, there's 3 different levels of certification: non-certified, and gold level, and platinum level. If you choose to reach a gold level of certification, you must have at least one technician who meets all of the requirements to reach technician level for all the products that you sell at your dealership. For Spyder, this means that he would have to complete the DVD series 1 through 5 plus DVD 7. In addition, he would have to complete all of the Spyder RT Roadster technical training webcasts 1 through 4. Should your dealership choose to reach platinum level of certification, you must have at least 2 technicians that reach technician level training status for all of the products that you sell, and you must have at least 1 technician who is a certified technician. A certified technician is one who has completed any one of the product's hands-on training courses that are now available. Now, you might have noticed that we do have hands-on training available for Spyders now at all 3 locations. Check BRPTI for the complete schedule. This special Spyder 3-day course will qualify a technician for certified level technician. So if you choose to have a certified technician level to reach your platinum level of certification, you may choose the Spyder course to meet this requirement. Now remember, the technical training is not the only element with dealer certification, and for more information on the certified program this year, look at BossWeb in the Comm Center under Dealer Certification. Okay, I'm sure we all have enough understanding of the certification program. Let's start talking shop. Kurt, now that the Spyder RT's been out for a while, how are things going, and are there any things that you would like to share with the technicians right now as to the current status of Spyder RT?
Thanks, Rich. Actually, things are going fairly well. However, I would like to bring to everyone's attention just a few things, and the first one we'll start with is on the RT SE5s. We've had a few units where the centrifugal clutch has remained engaged when a vehicle is stopped, and I want to touch on that just a little bit. I want to make sure that everyone understands what they should do when they encounter this. Number one, you need to call service and be explicit on what the symptoms are so we can help you diagnose it. Number two, we'll ask for a BUDS file. And number three, we'll ask you to replace it with a new clutch. We have sufficient stock. The parts are blocked, so we'll need to release the order for you. But under no circumstances do we want you to disassemble the centrifugal clutch at this point. We want the original centrifugal clutch back in its original state, not taken apart. The next subject I have has to do with the RT Gearbox Position Sensor Initialization Warranty Campaign. By now you should all have that bulletin in hand. It has to do with initializing the gearbox position sensor, which was not done on the assembly line on some units. I just want to review the symptoms for everyone, because that's what you guys will see, not necessarily that you'll see anything else other than these symptoms. Number one, the check engine light will come on occasion. Number two, there will be an error in the gear number in the cluster. So in other words, the display may say 2 when it's actually in 1, or it just may say E for error in general. Cruise control will be non-functional. Loss of auto downshift, meaning that if you pull up to a stop sign, it may not downshift on its own. And finally, the shifter may take longer on an SE5. So if you're trying to shift to another gear, it may take a little bit longer. The reaction time is longer just because it's not sure what gear it's in. So these are the symptoms you may or may not see. Some may have no symptoms at all, but we were asking you to do it on every unit regardless. This is SM5 or SE5 RT. Although it's very clear in the bulletin, I want to just touch on another point here, and that is that we're not using the traditional gearbox position sensor reset button. Instead, we are using the ECM reinitialization button, and what that does is it will reset the gearbox position sensor and put it in learning mode, so you can learn the gear, or it can learn the gears. In summary, just follow the bulletin and you'll be okay. The last topic I'd like to touch on has to do with not only the RT, but every Spyder that we've ever built, and it is about drive belt tension procedure and specification change. This is a very important change, and it's a bulletin you should have in your hand by now as well. We've observed several Spyders in the field with belt tensions either too high or too low. Therefore, we changed our drive belt tension to a value that's easier to maintain and reduce the complexity of the tension adjustment procedure. In order to simplify and standardize these, we'll have only one procedure and tension specification for all models and years. This specification and procedure will be used from now on for all 2008, 2009, and 2010 models. It is important that new units at PDI are adjusted using this procedure and specification prior to delivery. It's also important that vehicles in for service or inspection are updated using this procedure and new specification. Belt alignment procedures really have not changed. The PDI bulletins will be revised. The shop manuals will be revised in that they will probably have decals that we'll put in the manuals as we've done in the past. Make sure those decals find their way into your manuals. That pretty much sums it up for me. Rich?
Okay, Kurt, that's some really good stuff. Also, I want to remind everybody to review all of the bulletins that are available on BossWeb concerning the Spyder. Everybody needs to be very aware of everything that's been produced on the RT. Now let's get started with some technical training as promised. And Patrick, where are we going to start?
Rich, today we're going to talk about the RT body and how the RT is assembled in separate module sections. To begin with, there's the front storage compartment module. Now, we should all be familiar with this as it has to be installed at the time of PDI. In addition to this, there's the console module, which contains the WPM, headlights, windshield assembly, and the infotainment center or multi-function gauge as we already know it. The last module section is the rear cargo module. Now, as a matter of fact, during the Certified Roadster course, during a 4-hour time period, we remove all 3 of these modules, reinstall them, and at the same time cover many other aspects of the RT vehicle. Now, as with every repair, the first time that this has to be done is going to take you the most amount of time. The more you remove these panels or need arises that you need to remove these panels, the easier and faster it will get. Just remember, as stated in previous webcasts, that the bolts are all different sizes on the RT vehicle, and it's important that you keep them in the correct locations on the vehicle. There is a few ways this can be accomplished. One is by leaving the screws in the appropriate holes on the panels as the panels are removed. Another thing you can do is go out and get a small cupcake pan or some type of separator tray to organize the bolts in as you remove them from the individual panels and module sections. Now, if there is some confusion on the bolt locations when the vehicle is being reassembled, just refer to the illustrations in the parts catalogs, find the appropriate location for the bolt, then look it up in the parts listing, and it'll give you the diameter and length of each individual bolt. Probably one of the best guides to use on module or panel removal and reassembly is the individual kit instruction sheets. In addition to the shop manual, these sheets will show you directly which sections have to be removed and reinstalled for each individual accessory that you would be going to install. They are a great reference guide to indicate exactly where the bolts and or connectors might be located on the vehicle. Now, there's several instruction sheets depending on what kit's going to be installed, and again, each one shows you exactly what panels or sections have to be removed for installing that particular accessory.
And if I might add, Patrick, don't forget that all of the instruction sheets can be found on BossWeb for all of our accessories. All you need to do is go to the comm center, then to document, and then instruction sheets, and search those instruction sheets by the part number of the accessory, and you'll have the complete instruction sheet, which allows you to get an idea of what it's going to take to install any of our accessories or kits, and also give you an approximate flat rate time.
The approximate flat rate time. That's a really good point, Rich. And I'd like to expand on that just a little bit. We're going to talk more about it in a little while. However, just say, for example, you were going to install a CB onto an RT vehicle. Not only would you have to install the CB, but in addition, you would also have to install the entertainment harness. So you would have to reference both the CB kit instruction sheet and the entertainment harness kit instruction sheet and add those two approximate flat rate times together to get the correct amount of time for the installation of the CB. We're going to come back to the audio accessory installation a little bit later on. What I'd like to do right now is continue on with some of the other accessories that we have for the RT vehicle. The first accessory I'm going to talk about is the gauge pod for fuel and temp, otherwise known as the analog gauges. Now, these come standard on the Audio Convenience and the S model, but can be installed onto the RT base model. The installation is really simple. You simply remove the multi-function gauge trim, and then there's 2 knockouts that can be removed, and they're installed into the trim panel itself. Now, the wiring is already in the vehicle. No additional wiring has to be done. At that point, they just have to be plugged in and the trim panel put back in around the multifunction gauge. Now, once the gauges are installed and the key is cycled back on, the base model you'll see will have 2 bar graphs, one for temp and one for fuel. Once the gauges are installed and the key is turned back on, the multifunction gauge will automatically recognize that the gauges have been installed, and those two bar graphs will disappear. The other thing that will happen is if you remove those gauges, those two bar graphs will automatically reappear the next time the key is cycled off, the electrical system shuts down, and then it's turned back on. There is no additional programming with buds or anything that needs to be done when these two gauges are installed. I'd like to continue on with one of the more popular accessories, which would be the GPS or Global Positioning System. The GPS unit itself is a separate unit that mounts to the center of the handlebar assemblies with two brackets. There is a knockout included that needs to be removed, and then the wires are run down through the column, and then it can be wired into the vehicle. Now this allows that the unit is powered up from the vehicle, and also allows the voice mode in the GPS can be heard through the speaker system of the radio. Once that is installed, and the right side panels and the right rear panel that houses the audio control switch for the rear passenger needs to be removed, and there's a connector next to the radio that needs to be plugged in for the GPS. In addition to this, there's a small wire that has to be soldered in. Just follow the kit instruction sheet and you should be good to go. Another popular accessory is the electronic front cargo release. Now the wiring is already installed for the cargo release. However, the release needs to be installed and plugged in for the wiring. Then the central switch panel has to be removed, and the park brake switch is removed and replaced with a combination switch, which is the park brake switch and front trunk release switch. Now, one word of note on the electronic front cargo release is it is powered off of the load shedding relay. And since the load shedding relay does not kick on until the engine's at 850 RPM, that means that the front cargo release will not function unless the engine is running. Along with the front cargo release, another item that can be installed with it is the front cargo light. It's installed in the front cargo compartment, so when the hood is open and the engine is running, the light will be on in the front cargo compartment. However, take note on this that the front cargo light kit cannot be installed. It will not work unless the front cargo release has been installed. An item that can be installed to keep the hands nice and warm of the passenger on the vehicle are the heated passenger grips. Now, it's simply the old grips removed without the heaters installed. These grips are installed in their place. Again, the wiring is in the vehicle. And in addition, there's also the rear heated hand grip controller, which is installed. And again, the wiring is there for the controller also. Let's take a minute and take a look at the RT schematic, and in particular how the radio is wired and how the accessories to the radio, such as the XM and CB and intercom system, are wired according to the schematic. In this illustration, we'll see that the speakers, the rear audio control, the GPS, and the iPod connector are all wired into radio connector RD01. Now, RD01 is already wired into the vehicle's rear cargo module harness. And that would be included in any vehicle, including the base, the audio convenience, or the S model. Since it is incorporated into the vehicle's rear cargo harness, we'll say, for example, we were going to install a radio module into a base module that did not come equipped with one. Since the connector's there, we would simply install the module, then install connector RD01 into position 1 as shown in this illustration. Then, when the vehicle was turned back on, the multifunction gauge via CAN line would recognize the radio, and the radio would then function by utilizing the left rec or the left multifunction switch. Let's use another example. Since the speaker wires are also incorporated into the rear cargo harness, if someone has an audio convenience RT, then simply the passenger speaker and audio controls can be installed into the vehicle without any additional wiring. The speakers will automatically be recognized and automatically begin to play. Let me just say again that a vehicle that is not equipped with a radio or not equipped with rear speakers or front speakers, all that is necessary is the addition of the speakers and or the radio module if the vehicle is not equipped. However, in addition to the radio module, if the vehicle was not originally equipped with a radio such as the base model, you would need to install the rear radio antenna in order to receive reception for the radio. Let's return back to the vehicle schematic, but this time let's look at radio connector RDO2 and where the CB and the XM connects into the harness that plugs in to connector RDO2 of the radio. Connector RDO2 of the radio would plug in to position 2 as shown in this illustration. Note that position 2 is covered by a rubber plug. Not only is connector 2 capped by a rubber plug, but connector RDO2 is not in the vehicle. Not only is the connector not in the vehicle, but there's an entire harness called the entertainment harness that needs to be installed into the rear cargo module. Now this has to be done anytime a CB or XM radio, which is satellite radio, is installed into the vehicle. Again, the entertainment harness has to be installed into the vehicle in order to install a CB or an XM module. In order to install the entertainment harness, the entire rear cargo module needs to be removed from the vehicle. The harness is then routed underneath the rear cargo harness, wire tied into place, and then the rear cargo module is reinstalled on the vehicle. Once the entertainment harness is in place, either the CB or the XM can be installed. Now if you install the CB radio, you also need to install the CB antenna. The CB module itself is installed at the front of the right rear cargo box. There are no modifications that have to be made to the cargo box. The module is simply bolted into place, then the wires connected to the entertainment harness and to the antenna. Once installed, the CB will be automatically recognized via CAN by the multifunction gauge, and the REC or left multifunction switch will be able to control the functions of the Citizens Band radio. Now once the CB radio has been installed, if the customer decides he wants to have an intercom on the vehicle, he can install the intercom kit into the vehicle. Just take note, you cannot use the intercom kit unless the CB radio has been installed into the vehicle. However, if the customer just wants XM satellite radio that can be installed into the vehicle after the entertainment harness has been installed, and it is not necessary to have the CB module in the vehicle. The XM satellite radio module is installed on the front of the left rear cargo box, then connected to the entertainment harness. Then it will be recognized via CAN and will function through the REC or the left multifunction switch. And again, the CB does not have to be installed for the satellite radio to function. In addition to the module, the XM antenna has to be installed. Now that's installed inside of the top rear cargo compartment in the location as shown in the illustration.
This is very critical information, and it's a good point here to stress that you need to share this information with everybody in the dealership because it might not be so clear in the accessory books. Make sure that your technicians, parts managers, sales managers selling the vehicles or selling these accessories are aware of the additional components that are needed when adding some of these accessories.
Okay, now let's shift gears now, and we're going to start talking about the RT 622 trailer that's available for the Spyder RT. Okay, we're not going to sit here and look at all the specifications of the trailer, but I am going to want to point one out to you, which is the maximum loading capacity of the trailer. We don't want to exceed 68 kilograms, which is 150 pounds of weight in the trailer itself. Now, the trailer is available in 3 colors, black, blue, and silver, and also has a nice trailer cover that is available as an accessory. Now, before we get started with the technical aspects of the trailer, I just want to point out the trailer serial number location in case you would need that on the vehicle. It's in the picture as illustrated. Now, the suspension type is a coil-over independent trailer arm type suspension, in which arm moves independently of the road surface. There's not a whole lot I can say about this, but I'd like to show you a little video clip taken in testing laboratories. This video clip clearly illustrates how well the suspension on this trailer absorbs the road irregularities as compared to the trailer from the competition. Now, the preload is adjustable on the trailer. You can see in which direction the customer would need to turn his preload adjuster. Of course, it's always good to have the suspension completely unloaded whenever you turn any suspension preload adjuster, and you may want to inform your customer of that. Okay, now before you pull a trailer with the RT vehicle, you're going to need to install the trailer hitch. Now, the trailer hitch is an extremely simple installation. There's an axle pin that's installed through the center of the rear axle shaft that secures on the rear wheel, and then torque to specs. There's a few other items that need to be installed. Real easy, just follow your instruction sheet. You will need to know that there are 2 different hitch kits available. One hitch kit is for North America, and one hitch kit is for the European community. In North America, the trailer ball hitch size is 1 7/8 of an inch, and in the European community, the hitch ball is approximately 50 millimeters, which in North America we would call a 2-inch ball. Just ensure that you order the proper kit before you go to install it. The trailer hitch connects like any other standard trailer, boat trailer, camper trailer, as the case may be, with the exception of there is a plug-in connector for the trailer light. Now, that connector is part of what's called the trailer light control module, which will need to be installed on the vehicle. You'll need to follow the instruction sheets, but that trailer light module is installed on the left rear side of the vehicle behind the left storage compartment. The holes are pre-marked in the panel, but you're going to have to drill those holes to install the module itself. Okay, once that's installed, we need to take a look at the where it's connected to on the vehicle. It's connected underneath of where the left rear heated passenger grip switch panel would be. Same panel that you would use to access your battery from the rear of the vehicle. Now, it is something like a T-harness where you disconnect the connector and you plug the connector in line with the connector that was disconnected. Let's just take a minute now and take a look at the wiring diagram and where and what these wires are connecting to inside the connector that you disconnect underneath of that panel. This isn't in the shop manual for diagnosis or in the trailer shop manual either, so just take a note of that, and if you need to know what wires go to what, just come back and refer to this webcast. Alright, first, terminal A of the connector would be the black wire, which would be the ground wire for the HCM module. Next we have terminal B, which is the orange wire, which would be the tail light and plate light wire going to the HCM module. Here we have terminal C, which would be the white wire, which would be the signal wire from the brake light itself, again going to the HCM module. Terminal D would be the pink beige wire, and that would be the signal for the reverse light. Terminal E, the brown yellow wire, which would be the right turn signal wire, and that on the RT is controlled by the cluster, by the way. Terminal F would correspond with the gray wire with the pink stripe, which would be the left turn signal, and again coming from the multi-function gauge, also known as the instrument cluster. And finally we have terminal H, which would be the blue with the dark red tracer. Now that powers up the LCM from fuse F7 in the front fuse block. Now you might wonder why we broke these down for you. The information is on the schematic. However, it's rather difficult to find because you have to look at several different areas of the schematic to find which wire connects to which wire. So we decided to break it down for you so you have a reference in case you need it. Now here's a breakdown of the trailer light harness itself. That goes from the connector that plugs into the RT all the way to the rear of the trailer that plugs into a box in the rear of the trailer. This is in the trailer shop manual if you need to reference it, or you can also reference it here. Now also here we included a breakdown in case you need it for electrical diagnosis to pin out the plug on the trailer or the plug on the vehicle. Remember, when you look at these plugs, it's exactly opposite which plug you're looking at, and this is the only location currently that you will see this breakdown until we can get this into a service publication. So if you need it, it's here to use. Rich, that concludes everything I have on the trailer for today and for the other systems that we discussed.
Okay, that's really great material. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Kurt, for joining us today in this training session. This concludes Part 4 of the 4-part series for training on Can-Am Roadster Spyder RTs. Remember, after finishing this webcast, that you go back to BRPTI and complete the short exam as a verification of viewing this training session. Ride safely, work safe, and have a good day.